I remember the exact moment the room stopped feeling like mine. It wasn't loud. There was no sharp break, no cinematic snap where everything fractures cleanly. It was quieter than that, subtler, like a shift in air pressure you don't consciously notice until your ears start to ache. It was the conference room on the 12th floor. Glass wall. Too clean. Always too clean. The kind of clean that reflects you back at yourself in fragments, jawline here, eye there, a distortion of your own posture caught in the chrome edge of the table. I had my laptop open. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, not typing, just resting there like they belonged to someone waiting for permission to exist. And Daniel, my brother, was standing where I should have been. What? And what we've essentially done, he was saying, voice steady, warm, measured in that way he'd practiced since college, is restructure the predictive model to eliminate volatility at the input stage rather than compensating for it downstream. He said we. My eyes flicked to the screen behind him, the slide, my formatting, even the tiny alignment imperfection on the third bullet point, the one I'd noticed at 2:14 a.m. and decided to leave because fixing it would have meant admitting I wasn't finished yet. He hadn't fixed it. He hadn't changed anything. Not even enough to pretend. Something in my chest tightened, not sharp, not painful, just compressing. Like space itself had decided to reduce its allowance around my lung. I inhaled slowly, too slowly. I could feel the breath scraping its way in. No one note. Of course they didn't. Why would they? Daniel moved smoothly into the next slide. My next slide. And if you look here, this is where things get interesting. A small ripple of attention moved through the room. Heads tilted. Pens paused. He had their focus. He had my work. And I sat there, still, silent, watching. There's a specific kind of paralysis that doesn't feel like fear. It feels like calculation. Like your brain is running through every possible outcome at once and discarding them all before they fully form. If I speak now, no. Too late. If I interrupt, no. That would look defensive. If I correct him, correct what? He hasn't said anything wrong. Because he hadn't. That was the worst part. He was delivering it. Perfectly. Not brilliantly. Daniel was never brilliant, but cleanly. Confidently. As if the ideas had always belonged to him, as if they had grown somewhere inside him, instead of inside me over weeks of quiet, obsessive work. My work had always been quiet. That's the problem. Quiet things are easy to take. My gaze dropped to the table. The reflection stared back, warped, slightly delayed, like I was watching myself from half a second ago. My hand twitched. I hadn't realized it was clenched until the tendons in my wrist started to ache. Relax. I forced my fingers open, slowly, one by one. No one noticed that either. Daniel laughed lightly at something someone said, I didn't catch what, and the room responded with that polite, collaborative chuckle people use when they want to be seen agreeing. I tried to listen again. Optimize the decision tree, my decision tree. Cut processing time by my optimization. What we're proposing, always we, never me. A thought slipped in quiet, unwelcome, persistent. You let this happen. I swallowed. My throat felt dry, but not in the normal way. It felt tight. Like the act of swallowing required permission I hadn't been granted yet. I shifted slightly in my chair. The leather creaked. Too loud. A few eyes flicked toward me. Brief, curious, then gone. Daniel didn't look. He never looked at me during these things. Not directly. Not when it mattered. It was a pattern I'd noticed long before I named it. He acknowledged me in private. Casually. Comfortably. Like a brother. Like we were still kids sharing the same space, the same air, the same assumptions. But here, in rooms like this, I became peripheral. Not invisible. That would be simpler. Peripheral is worse. Peripheral means you exist just enough to be ignored. And that's why we believe this approach positions us ahead of competitors in both efficiency and scalability. He stepped back slightly. That subtle shift, the one that signals completion. Silence. Then applause. Polite. controlled, professional, but real. I felt it land in my chest like something heavy and dull. Not sharp enough to hurt, just heavy enough to stay. My palms were cold. I rubbed them lightly against my thighs under the table, slow, careful, hoping no one would notice the movement. Excellent work, Daniel, that was Mark. Of course it was Mark. His voice carried that familiar tone, approval wrapped in ownership. Like he wasn't just praising the result, but affirming his choice in choosing Daniel. Daniel nodded modestly. Appreciate it, he didn't say anything else. Didn't elaborate. Didn't redirect. Didn't my breath hit. Just slightly. Barely there. He didn't mention me. Not even one. Not a my brother helped, not a this started as his idea, not even a vague gesture toward collaboration. Nothing. Clean. Complete. Contained. Like I had never been part of it. And the worst part, the part that lodged itself somewhere deep and quiet inside me, was that no one questioned it. Why would they? Daniel had presented. Daniel had explained. Daniel had answered. Daniel had owned the space. Ownership is perception. Perception becomes truth. Truth doesn't ask for proof if it feels right. My gaze drifted again to the screen, now fading to the company logo. My work dissolved into branding. That felt appropriate. Something shifted then. Not outside. Inside. Small. Almost imperceptible. Like a hairline crack forming in glass. You don't hear it. You don't see it. But it's there. Waiting. The meeting ended slowly, like all meetings do, people lingering just long enough to reinforce connections, to be seen, to say things that matter less than the fact that they're said. Chairs scraped. Papers shuffled. Voices layered over each other in low, controlled tone. I stayed seated. Not because I had to. Because standing felt like a decision. And I wasn't ready to make one. Daniel moved through the room with ease. A hand on a shoulder here. A nod there. That effortless social calibration he'd always had. I watched him. Not directly. Never directly. Always through reflections. Glass. Polished surfaces. The edges of other people. There's something safer about indirect observation. It gives you distance. It gives you the illusion of detachment. But it also distorts. And I wasn't sure anymore if the distortion was in the glass. Or in me. Hey, his voice. Close. Too close. I looked up. He was standing beside me now, casual, relaxed, like nothing had shifted at all. Good stuff, right, and good stuff. I blinked. Once. Twice. My brain searched for the correct response, not the honest one, the correct one. Yeah, I said. My voice sounded normal. That surprised me. It shouldn't have. I've always been good at sounding normal. Thought it landed well, he continued, glancing back toward the door where Mark was still talking to someone. Timing was tight but worked out. I nodded. A small movement. Measured. Controlled. My hands were still on the table. Still. Too still. You okay? He asked. There it was, the question. Casual. Light. But precise. I felt something twist in my chest again. Not sharp. Never sharp. Just tightening. I'm fine, immediate. Automatic. True. I don't know. He studied me for a second. Just a second. But long enough. Daniel has always been good at reading people. Not deeply. Not like understanding. But recognizing patterns. Surface level shift. Micro expression. Kind that signal deviation. And I was deviate. I could feel it. Even if I didn't fully understand how. You look tired, he said. I let out a small breath. A controlled exhale. Didn't sleep much, that part was true. Truth is useful. It anchors the lie. Yeah, he nodded. Same, but that wasn't true. I knew it wasn't. Daniel sleeps easily. Always has. He doesn't carry things into the night. He doesn't loop. He doesn't replay. He doesn't dissect conversations hours after they end. He doesn't anyway, he said, shifting slightly. Good job pulling everything together. The words landed. Strangely. Good job. Pulling everything together. Not creating. Not building. Pulling. like I had assembled something that already existed, like I was on support. I nodded again. My neck felt stiff. Thanks, there was a pause. Small, but dense. I could feel something unsaid pressing against the edges of it. He didn't say it. Of course he didn't. Daniel never says the thing that would complicate the moment. He says the thing that preserves it. Well, he clapped his hands lightly once. I'm gonna catch Mark before he heads out. Of course he was, of course. Yeah, I said. He hesitated just for a fraction of a second, then added, we should grab dinner later. We. Always we. Sure, another automatic response. Another correct answer, he smiled. Why is he? Familiar. Then he was gone. Moving. Integrating. Expanding into the space like he belonged there. Like he always had. I stayed seated. The room was nearly empty now. The reflections were clearer, sharper, more defined. I looked at myself in the glass, tilted my head slightly. The reflection followed, delayed by just enough to feel. What? What? Good job, I whispered. The words sounded hollow, like they didn't belong to me. Or maybe I didn't belong to them. My lips pressed together, tight. A thought surfaced again, clearer this time. I didn't take it. I blinked, slowly. You gave it to him. My stomach tightened. That felt, what? Closer to something real. But not complete. Not yet. Because if I gave it to him, then I could take it back. Right. I stared at my reflection. It didn't answer, it just, what? Stared back. And for a brief, flickering moment, I wasn't entirely sure which one of us was more real. The hallway outside the conference room felt colder than it should have. Not dramatically. Just enough to register. Just enough to make the skin on my arms tighten slightly under my shirt. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, low, constant, almost imperceptible until you focus on it. And once you focus on it, you can't unhear it. I walked slowly. Not because I wanted to. Because my body hadn't decided on a pace yet. Each step felt, what? Deliberate. Heel. Then toe. A slight shift in weight. Balance. Forward. Repeat. It shouldn't feel this conscious. Walking is automatic. It's supposed to be. But something about the way the meeting had settled inside me, it disrupted that automation. Like my body was checking in for instructions it normally wouldn't need. I passed a glass panel. Caught my reflection again. Different angle. Different distortion. My shoulders looked, what? Uneven. I stopped. Just for a second. Adjusted my posture. Straightened. There. Better. More aligned. More. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Sharp. Sudden. Too loud. I flinched. Actually flinched. A small jerk in my shoulder. I looked around quickly. No one seemed to notice, of course. Again, of course. I pulled the phone out, a message from Daniel. Mark wants the revised deck by tonight. Think you can clean up a few slides? I stared at the screen. The words felt, what? Familiar. Too familiar. Like they had been said before. Not exactly. But in essence. Clean up. Adjust. Refine. Support. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. A response formed quickly. Yeah, no problem. I didn't send it. Not immediately. I watched the text sit there. Unsent. Floating. Waiting. A strange tension built in my chest again. Not sharp. Never sharp. Just, what? Pressure. Like something was pushing from the inside, testing the boundaries. Think you can clean up a few slides? A few slides. Which one? The ones he didn't fully understand. The ones he hadn't had time to internalize. The ones that my jaw tightened. Slightly. Almost unnoticeable. I deleted the message. Rewrote it. Which slide? I stared at that. Simpler. Neutral. Clarifying. Safer. I hit send. The 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Typing, of course. Daniel is always responsive. Efficient. Present. Mostly the last section. Just tighten the language a bit. Tighten the language. My fingers curled slightly around the phone. Tighten. Language. My language. I exhaled slowly. long, controlled. Got it. Send. The conversation ended there. Clean, efficient, contained. Like everything else, I slipped the phone back into my pocket. My hand lingered there for a second longer than necessary, fingers pressing lightly against the fabric, grounding, maybe, or confirming something. I wasn't sure. I resumed walk, heel, toe, forward, repeat, but the rhythm felt different now, not automatic, not neutral. There was something underneath it, something building, quiet, persistent, like that crack in glass spreading, slowly, silently, and I had the distinct, unsettling feeling that I wasn't going to stop it. Not this time. I don't remember sitting down. I remember the chair. I remember the texture, synthetic leather, slightly warm from the room, faintly sticky against the back of my shirt. But the moment between standing in the hallway and being here at my desk, screen glowing, cursor blinking, is gone. Not missing, just unrecorded. Like my mind decided it wasn't worth keeping. Or maybe it was too smooth to notice. That thought lingers longer than it should. Too smooth to notice. I stare at the cursor. Blink, blink, blink. Each pulse feels deliberate, like it's waiting for me to do something I haven't agreed to yet. The deck is open. My deck. No Daniel's deck. No, I feel a slight pressure behind my eyes. Not pain. Just wait. Labels are unstable. That's new. Or maybe it's not new. Maybe I've just never stayed still long enough to notice. The last section. Tighten the language, I scroll. Slowly. The mouse wheel clicks softly under my finger, each notch a small, contained movement, like the mechanism is trying to keep me grounded in something physical. Slide 27. Slide 28. There. Slide 29. I stop. The text fills the screen. Familiar. Intimate. I know the structure of these sentences the way you know the shape of your own handwriting. Not just the words, the rhythm. Where the breath should fall. Where the emphasis lives. I read the first line. Then again. Then a third time. Something is off. Not wrong. Just shifted. I lean close. My shoulders tighten without asking me. The sentence is mine. But it doesn't feel like it belongs to me anymore. It feels observe. Like something that used to be internal has been turned outward and is now looking back. I scroll down. Another line. Another. There's a small edit. A word replaced. Subtle. Almost correct. But not. The meaning holds, but the weight is different. Lighter. Cleaner. Less precise. Daniel did that. He touched it. Just enough to make it his. Just enough to blur the edge. I swallow. Slow. Careful. My throat feels narrow. Like it might close if I rush it. You can fix this. The thought is calm. Too calm. That's what he asked for. Fix. Tighten. Refine. I place my fingers on the keyboard. They hover there. Not moving. There's a hesitation. Small. But dense. Because fixing it means finishing it for him. Again. A pulse of something moves through my chest. Not anger. Not yet. Something colder. More structured. Like a realization arranging itself into place. I inhale. Hold it. For a second too long. Then exhale slowly. My fingers begin to move. Not fast. Deliberate. Controlled. I adjust a word. Then another. Shift a phrase. Reorder a clause. The sentence sharpens. Tightens. Becomes correct. My version. Not his. Mine. I stop. Stare at it. A strange sensation creeps in, something close to satisfaction, but thinner. Hollowed out. Because I know exactly what will happen next. He'll present this version. He'll use this exact phrasing. This exact rhythm. And no one will hear me in it. They'll hear him. Because he'll be the one speaking. Ownership is voice. And my voice is silent. My fingers still. The cursor blinks at the end of the sentence. Blink, blink, blink. And then a thought. Clear, clean, fully formed. What happens if you don't fix it? I freeze. Not physically, internally. The thought doesn't feel intrusive, it feels logical, measured, like it's been waiting its turn. I lean back slightly. The chair creaks under me. Soft, contained. What happens if you leave it? My eyes drift back to the sentence Daniel changed. The almost right version. The version that sounds convincing until it doesn't. Until someone looks closer. Until someone asks a question that requires more than surface understanding. My heart rate shifts. Not faster. Just heavier. Each beat feels more pronounced. He'll have to explain it. The idea settles deeper in detail. I tilt my head slightly. A small movement. Barely noticed. Without you. My fingers curl slowly against the edge of the desk. The wood presses into my skin. Grounding or anchoring. I'm not sure which. A memory surfaces not as an image, but as a pattern. Daniel in college presenting a group project. Confident. Fluid. Until someone asked something off script. Something technical. Something precise, the hesitation. Brief, but visible. The way his eyes flicked not to the audience, but to me. Looking. Waiting. For the bread. For the missing piece, for me. And I gave. Of course I did. I always did. Because that was the arrangement. Unspoken. But consistent, he lied. I support, he speaks. I build, he owns. Light, exists somewhere underneath that. The memory fades. But the pattern stays. My gaze returns to the screen. To the imperfect sentence. The almost right version, the crack. Small. Invisible until pressure is applied. My breathing slows. Not intentionally, it just does. Like my body is aligning with something. A decision that hasn't been fully spoken yet. I move the cursor. Hover over the text. There's a pause. A long one. Long enough for doubt to surface. This is stupid. Just fix it. That's your job. Job. The word lands. Strangely. Flat. Detached, is it? Or is that just what I've been told long enough that it feels true? My thumb presses lightly against the spacebar. Once, the page shifts slightly. Nothing changes. Everything stays the same. I move the cursor away. I don't fix it. Not that line. Not that section. I scroll further. There are other places. Other small distortions. Other almost right pieces. I leave them. One by one. Not dramatically. Not recklessly. Carefully. Strategically. Like I'm tracing the outline of something instead of filling it in. My chest feels different now. Still tight. But organized. Directed. The pressure isn't random anymore. It has shape. Intent. I continue reviewing the deck. I do make changes. Of course I do. Enough to maintain the illusion. Enough to keep it clean. Professional. Convincing. But the core, the places that require depth, I leave them untouched. Or worse, I refine them just enough to make the gaps sharper. Cleaner. Harder to hide. My hands move steadily. No hesitation now. That's the unsettling part. There's no internal argument. No moral friction. Just execution. When I finish, I sit back. The screen glows softly in front of me. The deck looks complete. Polished. Ready. A quiet sense of finality settles in. Not relief. Something else. Something heavier. More permanent. I export the file. Attach it. Send it to Daniel, no message. Just the file. The email whooshes away. Gone. Irretrievable. I stare at the screen for a long moment after. Waiting for something. Guilt. Maybe. Regret. Hesitation. But nothing comes. Just that same structured stillness. Like a surface that has frozen over. And underneath, something is still moving. The presentation room feels different this time. Or maybe I do. It's hard to separate the two. The air is colder. Or maybe I'm just noticing it more. The lights are brighter. Or maybe my eyes are more sensitive. Everything feels sharper. defined, edges where there used to be gradient. I take my seat, same position, same angle, same reflection in the glass, but it doesn't feel like repetition. It feels like alignment, like something has clicked into place. Daniel stands at the front again. Of course he does. Same posture, same confidence, same voice. And what we've essentially done, always we. My lips press together, not tight, just closed. I listen, carefully, not emotionally, structurally. He moves through the first slides easily. Those were solid. They always were. Clean, safe, predictable. The room responds the same way. Nods, note, engagement. Everything unfolds exactly as it should. And then he reaches it, the section. My section. The altered one. There's a shift. Subtle. Almost imperceptible. But I feel it immediately. His pacing changes. Just slightly. A fraction slower. He reads the line. The almost straight line. The one he adjusted. The one I left. This allows us to stabilize the input variability without introducing downstream distortion. The sentence hangs. Technically correct, but incomplete. There's a missing link. A bridge that should connect it to the next concept. I feel my chest tighten again. But this time it's not uncomfortable. It's anticipatory, he continues. Moves forward. Skips the gap. Or tries to. The next slide. A question comes. Of course it does, from Mark. Can you elaborate on how that stabilization interacts with the secondary model? There it is. Clean, precise, unavoidable. Daniel pauses, just for a second. But it's there, visible. His eyes flick not to me. Not this time. Just outward, searching, calculating. I feel something shift inside me. A small, quiet detachment, like I've stepped half an inch outside my own body. Watching, not participating, he answers. Sort of. The words come out smooth, but empty, surface level. He's circling the concept, not entering it. Mark tilts his head slightly. That micro-expression. Interest shifting to scrutiny. Right, Mark says slowly, but what's the mechanism there? The pressure increases. In the room, in Daniel, in me. But differently. For him, it's destabilizing. For me, it's clarifying. Daniel speaks again. Longer this time. More words. More structure. Less substance. I feel my fingers twitch slightly on the table. A reflex. Old pattern. This is where I usually step in. This is where I fill the gap. Bridge the idea. Save the flow. My throat tightens. Not from fear, from restraint. I don't move. I don't speak. I don't exist. The silence stretches. Not long, but long enough. Mark leans back slightly. A shift in posture, a recalibration. Okay, he says, but it doesn't sound convinced. Daniel nods, moves on. But the rhythm is broken now. Subtly, irreversibly. The rest of the presentation continues, he finishes. Same as before, but not the same. The applause is there, but thinner, less certain. The room doesn't feel as aligned. Something has shifted, not dramatically, but enough to be felt, enough to linger. I sit still, hands resting on the table, breathing steady, controlled. Daniel doesn't look at me, not once. After the meeting, the room empties again. Same slow dissolution. Same fragments of conversation. But I don't stay seated this time. I stand. Immediately. The movement feels precise, intentional. I don't rush. I don't linger. I walk toward the door. Heel, toe, forward. Repeat. The hallway feels the same. Cold, quiet, fluorescent hum. But something inside me is quieter. Not calm. Not peaceful. Just settled. Like a decision has fully taken root. Hey, Daniel's voice. Behind me. Closer than I expected. I stop. Turn slowly. He's standing there. Not relaxed this time. Not casual. There's something in his posture, tightness, controlled. His smile is there. But it's thinner. That section, he says, the last part, he pauses, choosing word carefully. You could have flagged that, there it is. Not an accusation. Not directly. But close enough. I tilt my head slightly. A familiar jest. One I've used 1,000 times. What do you mean, my voice is even? Neutral. He studies me. Longer this time. Trying to read, to pattern match. Find the version of me he understands. I mean, he says slowly, it didn't flow the way it should have. Flow. The word hangs between us. I nod slightly. Yeah, I say, a beat. Then you changed it. The silence that follows is different, denser, more direct. His eyes narrow just slightly. Not aggressively, but enough. I adjusted it, he says. Careful, measured. Right, I nod. Another small pause. Then I didn't. The words land clean. No edge, no emphasis. Just fact. Something shifts in his expression, a flicker. Quick, but real. You knew it wasn't right, he says. There it is. Closer now. I hold his gaze. Not intensely. Just steadily. I thought it was your version. The sentence sits between us. Heavy, simple, irrefutable. His jaw tight, slightly. That's not, he stopped. Because it is. It is exactly that. His version, his ownership, his presentation, his responsibility. The air between us feels compressed, like the space is shrinking. Or maybe we are. I'm not sure. You're part of this, he says finally. The word part echoes. Soft, distant. I feel something move in my chest again. That same structured pressure. But deeper now. More rooted. I say, quiet, controlled. The shift is small, almost invisible, but it lands. He hears it. Of course he does. Daniel always hears the changes, even if he doesn't understand them. We stand there, facing each other. Same height, same space, different. Something. I can't name it. Not fully, but it's there. Clear, irreversible. I need to talk to Mark, he says. A step back, a retreat, or a repositioning. Okay, I don't offer anything else. No support, no solution, no bridge, he waits. Just for a second. Like he expects something more. Then nothing comes. And he leaves. I don't follow. I don't watch him go. I turn. Walk in the opposite direction. The hallway stretches ahead. Long. Empty. Endless in that artificial, corporate way where distance feels repeated rather than extended. My reflection moves beside me in the glass, in sync, perfectly aligned, no delay, no distortion. For the first time it feels accurate. I slow slightly, not stopping, just noticing. My breathing is steady. My shoulders are level. My steps are even. There's no visible change. Nothing dramatic, nothing broken, but something fundamental is no longer where it used to be. I try to find it, that old reflex, that instinct to correct, to support, to step in. It's not gone, not completely. I can feel traces of it, faint, distant, like a memory of a habit rather than the habit itself. But it's not active, not dominant, not automatic. And in its place there's space, not relief, not freedom, just space, open, undefined, unstable. I reach the end of the hallway, pausing, for no clear reason, just pausing. The building hums around me, low, constant, alive in that quiet, mechanical way. I place my hand lightly against the glass, cool, smooth, real. My reflection does the same. Mirrored. Exact. I stare at it at me. And for a brief moment, a flicker of something surfaces. Not guilt. Not regret. Something quieter. More unsettling. Recognition. But not of who I was. of what I'm becoming. And the strangest part, the part that settles deepest, is that I don't feel out of control. I feel aligned, which means whatever this is, whatever I've shifted into, it's not something that happened to me. It's something I chose. Or worse, something that's been choosing itself through me for a long time. And I only just stopped interrupting it. My fingers press slightly harder against the glass. The reflection presses back, perfectly matte. No hesitation, no delay, no distortion. And I realize quietly, clearly, without resistance, that I don't know if I could go back. Even if I wanted to.